Welcome to the Culture Curators podcast. We're here to share insight, information, and resources to help you become a more effective salon business owner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Culture Curators podcast. We are super excited today for a really great topic around to front desk or not to front desk. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's hit it because it's one of those topics right now that's a little controversial.
Yeah.
Because some people really believe that you need a front desk to have a certain culture, to have a certain client experience, and other people are learning that maybe that's not the case.
Right.
And so I think it's a hot topic right now.
It is, and the reality is that I want to start around some of the challenges with front desk and why it might be smart to eliminate it. Now, I also think that, for me, I don't think that we really have a hard-lined stance on this. It's not a right or a wrong. It's an option for you to think about to see what works for your business.
Well, I think that it goes back to what is your culture.
Right.
What is your culture and what do you want it to look like from the client experience?
Yeah.
And also from the team experience.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's what I mean, where some of the challenges that we hear all the time that we've experienced as salon owners is, staffing front desk is challenging, right? And
Absolutely.
It is a transient position, meaning it's hard to keep someone tenured at the front desk. It's generally going to be high turnover rate. And a high turnover rate means that you have to consistently be hiring, you have to consistently be training, and if you're looking to provide the client with a consistent experience, it's very hard when that front desk person keeps changing.
Absolutely. And so when people think about, I want this to be part of my client experience, to have that front desk person, if it's constantly changing, or sometimes there's a front desk person, sometimes there's not, you're sending a mixed message, and the client experience isn't as good as it could be, potentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that years gone by, it wasn't so negotiable to front desk or not to front desk.
Agreed.
I think that commission salons always wanted a front desk person there. They were hoping they could afford it.
Right.
But with that came a lot of expense, came a lot of turnover, a lot of training. You're constantly training that front desk, and you're trying to find that perfect person. And the young people might be able to be trained really well on the computer really fast, how to make appointments, all that kind of stuff, but they don't have maybe some of the etiquette that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. You hire an older person, and by older, you can define what older is to you. You may have the etiquette, but you don't have maybe the computer skills.
Yeah.
And so it was always a challenge to find that dream candidate and to get them to stay. Like you said, it's just one of those departments that's going to have high turnover.
Yeah, It's just a fact of it. And listen, you might have had a great front desk person for the last decade. Good for you. That's an amazing thing. But I would say that you would be the exception to the rule in that sense. And eliminating front desk doesn't mean that you eliminate some level of salon coordinator. That could be an option as well. But you could also do it without. It depends on so much. It depends on your salon size. It depends on your personnel. It depends on how many stylists you have. It depends on the dynamic of the layout. There's so many different variables. But when we think about removing front desk, we think about creating more of a streamlined and modern type of experience for the client, where they're very used to that in other businesses. They're used to that when they go to the airport and they check in. They're used to that now at the supermarket when they check out. They're used to that at CVS or Walgreens or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times it creates a more, like I said, streamlined approach. Now, I think it would be smart for us to talk a little bit about that. If you are thinking about, you might be right now saying, well, I have front desk, I have a traditional kind of layout right now. How would I even begin to think about how to evolve it into front desk lists? Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And, I kind of have to laugh to myself because I think about my original front desk, and I swear to God, you could put a twin size bed in it. It was so big.
Huge. The one that I just got rid of was massive, like massive.
It's unbelievable. So, the first thing when you're thinking about how do I start to streamline, how do I start to take away this front desk, and what does that look like? I would absolutely look at just that, the front desk. Is it huge? Does it take up half of your waiting area? Is it small? Is it like a pedestal? Is there a place where you could potentially have someone do a self check-in with just a little iPad stand, and that could just be a start. And
Even just that is a great start.
it is a really great start. And I really love the idea of having a salon coordinator and having that person be able to work the room, not the front desk necessarily, but work the entire room and help out. And how that works would be dependent upon your structure and what you're looking for. But let's just take it bite sizes at a time. And I think that's the first thing, is to take a look at your front desk, take a look at your reception area, and how do you make that more streamlined, take away that big bulky desk, and have the ability for people to check in and even perhaps check out. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? You have to check in with your software around like what the capabilities are. And you also, you don't want to sacrifice the pre-book. You don't want to sacrifice the retail
Right.
sale. So you need to make sure that, the salon's prepared for this. We'll talk about rolling it out to the team and the communication about that in a little bit. But I'd like to also talk about what I believe is really important, that when you roll this out, if you go to that kind of podium style or check-in kiosk style, what's really important is that the client is not confused when they walk in,
Right.
and that there's clear kind of directions around it. There's a clear, concise email that's been sent out about the changes happening, and an exciting email that helps them understand that we're elevating the way that we do business, we're evolving with the modern times, and we're helping streamline your experience to help better serve you, and make sure that you kind of position it the correct way. And you have to be open. This is the reality. You have to be open to online booking.
Absolutely. I think that's a critical key.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe even goes before getting rid of that big
Yeah, that
bulky
might be
front
step one.
desk. I think it could be step one, because you have to prepare your guest for that experience. And the bottom line is, some people are even taking the phones out of the salon. And if you're taking the phones out of the salon and you go phoneless, they have to be able to book online.
Yeah.
And you have to train your clients, so to speak, to book online
100%.
or to set up their appointment prior to them leaving. And that's really, really critical, I believe, in the successfulness of perhaps taking away the front desk.
Yeah, and if you're taking away your phone, or at least the ability for that phone to ring, and like for you to answer it, or for a human to be always answering it, you don't want to create frustration for the client, right? And you still want to create a really clean experience for them. So you have to have a streamlined way to communicate with clients. Text messaging, it's crazy that I'm saying this, but this is evolution. 5 years ago, I thought texting a client was unprofessional. And I've just changed my mind, to be honest, which I think everyone reserves the right to do, as I've been educated through it and as I've learned. It's kind of the same way that fear of online booking. You're afraid that people are going to make mistakes when they book online. Mm-hmm. And the reality is they will. But the reality is also, humans that are your front desk coordinator or receptionist, they're going to make mistakes too. So you kind of got to pick your poison there, and it's a learning curve. So it's, instead of like being afraid of the mistake, it's educating the client when the mistake's made. So what we realized was, when we were just going in and correcting it, it wasn't doing the client any good, because they were going to go do that the next time the same way. So we would go in and correct it, and then notify the client of what we've corrected, and then reiterate steps 1 through 3. Step 1 is select this service. Step 2 is this service. Step 3 is that, just to make sure that they are aware and they know what to expect and how to do it. And honestly, they're super thankful. They're super grateful for that. And it creates a really, again, streamlined experience for the client and for you. And you still need the opportunity that if maybe there's a large booking that needs to happen, or something that's a bit more complicated, that's not your traditional, cut, color service, or just haircut, or just blow dry, or whatever, you need to still be able for them to connect with a human at times. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, I do too. And I love what you said about evolving. This is about evolution. And, the pandemic taught us a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things that it taught us, I believe, is that we needed to evolve. That we were really stuck in our ways, that we were just used to doing everything the way it was and it was working fine. And so we thought, well, why not? We just continue on. But we've learned that we need to evolve. And this is evolution, to even have this conversation and to maybe even do it. And when you think about certain stores that go in and they have certain experiences and contact less, if that's a word, I don't know, experience in a check-in or a check-out, they're busy and people are doing it. People have a choice in most grocery stores to check themselves out if they want to check themselves out. And some people really prefer that.
Are
Some
you the kind
people
of consumer
don't.
that prefers that when you go to a supermarket?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prefers what? You prefer to check yourself out?
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I mean,
Absolutely.
if I have like a huge grocery shopping,
Then I'll go.
I'll go on the line, you
Yeah.
know. But if I'm like trying to just grab something quickly, again, it's convenience. I heard this the other day. Well, two things I want to mention. One thing, one of our coaches, Desiree, she had said like online booking is the new walk-in. And it's so true. Like this just happened to me this past Saturday. I had one final opening. It didn't look like it was going to get booked for the day. And like literally probably 10 minutes before the appointment itself, this gentleman booked it. And this is the new walk-in, right? People
you're right.
want to see, they don't want to walk in and ask. Some will, but a lot want to do it from the convenience of their phone.
Right.
And that's the modern way of doing things. We do so much from our device, our phone,
Do everything.
our laptop, whatever, that why not bring your company, your business, the hair world into that? And will you get some resistance from some clients? Of course, at times. But the same thing goes to say, like, when you go to a store now, for instance, if they don't accept Apple Pay, let's say, you're kind of like, why don't you accept Apple Pay?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like you want to kind of get with the times. And if you can have the ability to store credit cards on file, the checkout process is much more seamless, right? So if maybe you have decided that you're completely eliminating front desk, your stylist will be the ones checking them out. And you had said this in a different podcast episode around like the drop and dash. This is a great way to help hairdressers, because I see this all the time. Hairdressers have a fear of actually the transaction, right? So it's like accepting the money, saying the number that is due is hard for people. And I'll admit, hard for me as well at times, but the only way you push through hard is by doing it and just pushing through the fear that you have. And honestly, it's not as bad as you think. The person's paying it either way. So whether you're delivering that or whether there's a front desk person delivering it, it's really no difference. Right? So making sure that you're creating a seamless experience. Always still recommending, and this is important with online booking as well, our number one recommendation should always be that a client leaves the salon with their next appointment. But the reality is we know that's not going to happen 100% of the time. So you have to open up the next best option, which is online booking.
One of the things I want to talk about is it would be really easy to implement deskless if you were a brand new salon.
Right.
Or if you never had a desk.
Right, if you were just starting out that
right?
way. Yeah.
However, a lot of us have had front desk people to some capacity or another capacity. And so how do you share with your team what you're doing and get them behind that? Because now there could be a lot of thoughts rolling around their head. And now I have to do somebody else's job. Now it's going to take me more time to do it. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I don't want to ask them if they want to tip me. All of the excuses are going to start to come out. So I know that you just are going through that transition
I'm
of
right in
taking
it.
away the front desk. So share with us maybe some of the experiences you had with your service team and the pushback, the embracement, where they're at with it.
Well, I would say that, in the beginning, I think you have to be really clear on why you're making this decision, right? And it's for the exact reasons that we talked about, right? The constant turnover. They get frustrated by the constant turnover of front desk as well, and the lack of consistency that can create for the client. So it's letting them know that we're streamlining that entire process and we're just going to eliminate that. It's also letting them know that we are going to need your help and support in order to make this all work. And we're going to need to collectively work together as a team to do that, right? So if you have support staff, which you'd really need in these scenarios, your assistants need to be trained on how to check clients out. If you call them associates, whatever you title them, they need to understand that they are now responsible for kind of floating the way that Jill kind of described before, working the room. Now, they still will have a main role of obviously client experience, but at the same time, the client experience then can be finished or completed at the front desk. So they can just continue that all the way through. And we all know, I mean, are there some times here and there where checking out a client takes a little bit longer than typical? Right. Yeah, of course. If they're asking a bunch of questions, if you're having a challenge pre-booking them, something like that. But the reality is checking a client out doesn't take you that long.
It really doesn't.
It just doesn't. So what we talked about is, and this has actually enhanced our teamwork, because if I'm not with a client, I'll check out your client. If you're not with a client, you'll check out mine. Whoever is available at that moment, we'll check that person out.
Well, what's so cool about that is that you get people out of the back room.
Exactly.
And you get them up front. You get them
It's
in the
huge.
business. You get them interacting with clients. And there's so many positive things about that. First of all, you get out of the broke room, number one. Number two, if I'm checking your client out and I'm talking to them and I'm having a great conversation, and next month they're supposed to come in and you happen to be ill, who do you think they're going to look to? They're going to say, can I have an appointment with Jill?
Yeah.
Because they know they've had some sort of an experience. And it just, to me, it brings teamwork together. It brings unity. It really creates a deeper and more meaningful culture.
Yeah,
I get excited about the opportunity and the possibilities.
Absolutely. Clients are definitely recognizing it. They're noticing it. They obviously notice the aesthetic difference right when they walk in.
Right.
They fall right in line with the process. Is there a little bit of a learning curve? Yes. Is it perfect? No. Are there going to be a few bumps along the way whenever you change something like this? Yes, it's a pretty big change. It's a pretty dramatic change if you've been very traditional the way that we were.
Right.
But it's also about, what kind of team do you have? Do you have a resistant team in general? Well, you really got to think about that. You have to think about what type of dynamic you've created in your culture before you make such a heavy shift like this. There might be other things you need to change within the culture first before you decide to do this. But this is a really amazing thing. You have to think about this too. I mean, we got to talk about this part. You're saving and eliminating a huge portion of income. Of expense.
Yeah.
So if you are staffing full-time front desk, think about how you can take that income now and redirect it into other resources. And that can also be a great talking point with your team if you decide to have a really clear plan. Maybe now your education, package can look a little bit different. Maybe your compensation shifts a little bit. I don't mean by increasing, commission or anything like that, but there can be some dynamics that there's now new resources that have opened up.
There could be a bonus structure.
Something, yeah.
There could be anything. And, one of the things that I find to be helpful when you're making such a big change like this is to enlist a team. And I don't mean the entire team. I mean, to ask specific people if they would like to be on a front desk or no front desk team committee, and to hear what they have to say. Their voices are strong and they're powerful and they've got a lot to say. We need to listen to it. We need to digest it. And then we need to see how we can respond to it and still accomplish the task at hand if that task is to eliminate the front desk. And so I think that if you can bring some team members, not all, some team members into it and get them excited about it, then that has a ripple effect on the rest of the team. And I think the buy-in happens at a higher rate, and I think it also happens at a faster rate.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one other thing I'd like to mention is around this with the whole team and working together, another big component is you should look at some resource where you can have an online texting kind of option. So if the browser is up all the time on the front computer, on that front stand area, then everyone that's floating, that's kind of checking, they're also just kind of browsing if maybe requests are coming in, and we're playing as a team that way as well. Now, you can have a point person. So again, if you have a salon coordinator, that's going to be the point person that's going to be really doing that. We're kind of talking about if you had like you and your stylist, that's it. And there are ways to make that work. That's exactly what my salon is doing right now. Does that mean that we'll do it forever this way? No, I think there might be a time where we bring in a salon coordinator, but at the moment, this is working really well for us, and it's a great way for the team to be connected to their numbers. It's a great way to make sure that mistakes aren't happening where someone's being mischarged or a service wasn't added on that was done, things like that. So for me and the way that I look at it as a whole, Jill had talked about the Benjamin Franklin list on another episode, and the pros and the cons of going front desk lists. The pros just far outweighed what the challenges would be. And you had asked like the kind of the kickback or the pushback with team members. I think that also goes to the kind of trust that you've built with them.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you've built enough trust that they believe in you and the decisions that you make. And I think you need to set it up, like I said before, where will this be absolutely smooth and perfect? Of course not. But I'm asking for your patience and your willingness to try something different. And let's try this on for the next 90 days and talk about it through team meetings so that you can dialogue challenges that are maybe coming up and talk about navigating around them together.
Yeah, they have to be willing to have faith in your ability to lead, guide, and direct them.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about the opportunity for people to determine whether or not they want to stay with the front desk or go. It's a really great big topic,
Yeah.
but at least we've started the conversation, and hopefully we have imparted some knowledge to you around it and given you some food for thought. So reach
Absolutely.
out to us if you have any questions around whether or not it's a good fit for you and your culture, or maybe it's not a good fit. We're always here to help, serve, and support you. So good luck with that.
Absolutely. We will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening and watching. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Culture Curators podcast. Please like, comment, follow, and subscribe.